Sometimes it seems that public education can be out of sync with a Christian lifestyle. So are there any other options out there? Well, coming up next, we'll be talking about a wonderful Christian option on this episode of Better Life Today. Welcome to this episode of Better Life Today. I'm Charlie Oliver, your host, and today I'm joined by Dave Davies from the Oregon Conference, and we're going to be talking about education. And this is of particular interest to me because not only do I have 3 sons that are in Christian education, I also have a wife that teaches in Christian education. So thank you for coming and joining us. Dave Davies is the Associate Superintendent of Education for the Oregon Conference. Welcome to the show.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share with you and your viewers the high value I place on Christian education.
Well, and I don't think we're alone in this. I think, I grew up in the system. Mm-hmm. That almost sounds bad saying it's in the system, but there's so many benefits to Christian education. So again, I'm just thrilled at this opportunity to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Would you share with us how you got involved in Christian education?
Sure. I spent my first 6 years in public school, and my parents had recently become Christians just before I was born, so they had a bent towards Christianity and Christian education, but there were no Christian schools where I lived. So I went to public school for the first 6 years, and then after that we moved to a place where there were Christian schools available, and I attended Adventist Christian education after that. So I can easily compare and contrast between the two different systems. And I will say I had many good teachers in public school, very good teachers, maybe a couple not so, but most of them were. Mm-hmm. And some of them were good Christians as well, but they could never share that with us who are students. Right. And that's 60 years ago, so you can imagine how things have progressed to today.
Well, and I don't have to imagine, because before my wife became a teacher within the Adventist school system, which we will get to, she taught in the public school system. She taught in special ed early childhood, and there were certainly guidelines on what you could and couldn't say. And that was one of the primary reasons she felt impressed to change school systems, because she felt like she was having to hide who she was.
Yes, there were other things that I heard and learned in the public system which were not something that a Christian young boy probably should hear, whether it was lewd jokes on the playground, right. Language that Christians wouldn't use, those types of things. I did spend 1 year running home from school every day to keep getting beat up by a gang of boys. Oh. So I had some of those experiences, even though I did have good teachers. When I went to Christian school, things changed dramatically. I think probably the greatest thing that was different was I heard God's name mentioned every day, not in a curse or a swear word, but rather in reverence and lifting up who God was.
Right. So, and part of that is, we have to be honest that things happen in Christian schools as well.
They do.
But it's a totally different standard. So there's an expectation of behavior that may be a little bit different. I look at my childhood, and I spent some time in the public school system. I actually, little different. I started out in Adventist schools, and then there was a period where for 2 years I went to public school. And I just remember looking forward to going to the public school because I had all these imaginations of how wonderful it would be. And it was frankly quite brutal. And I was so thankful when I had the opportunity to return to the Adventist school system and be back within what I considered a safe zone. It's really remarkable, the difference. But I'll also say that not everybody, for whatever reason, proximity, they may not be able to go to a Christian school.
Right.
And so it comes down, the home is so important. But we need to provide these opportunities so kids, as much as possible, do have the option of going to our schools. So let's walk down that road a little bit further. We're talking about Christian schools. Now the Adventists have a school system as well.
We have one of the largest school systems, the largest Protestant school system in the world, about 5,000 schools. So it's a very large system, very well supported. We develop some of our own curriculum, and then in areas that we don't develop curriculum, we choose the best curriculum that is out there on the open market.
So do you have flexibility in curriculum that's not offered by the public school system?
Absolutely. And of course, there's a Bible class taught every day that you wouldn't find anywhere in public school.
Right. So how did that come about? What's the history? Why did the Adventist Church decide to get into Christian education?
Well, it was just felt that the public schools were not providing, the theory of evolution had become prevalent, when the Adventist Church began back in the 1860s. And so, I think Christian parents are not going to buy into that theory. And unfortunately, that theory is not taught as a theory in public school. It's taught as a fact.
Right.
And if it was taught as a theory, I could accept it a little more.
Right.
But it's not. And of course, we teach what that theory is in our school. But we do not teach that in our Christian school as a fact. We teach that as being a theory which man has devised for the origins of mankind.
Right. So with Christian education, as they decided to introduce it and introduce our own system, what were the main goals in putting that option out there?
Well, I see three main goals in our schools that I would lift up to you. The first one is that God is part of our school, and that our students are not here as a result of thousands of different accidents, and that's what caused them. But rather, they were created by a loving God who has a plan for them, a future for their life here on earth, and also a future beyond this earth. So that's probably the most important thing we teach. Because if you contrast 70, 80, 90 years here on this earth with eternity in a loving home with a God who cares about you, there's no real comparison.
There really isn't. I mean, the whole outlook on life changes so much when there's intentionality.
Yeah, so in my view, for a Christian family, the only alternative is to put their child in Christian education if it is at all available. And so that's probably the first major goal. Then a second goal is to be the best school it can possibly be. Excellence in academics. Across the board, we have a wide range of academic offerings that you would find in the public school. Anything that you would find there, you would find in Adventist schools. And beyond that, probably our third most important goal, I would say, would be safety. We want our schools to be both a safe environment for students physically and also emotionally, so that they're cared for both physically and emotionally.
Right. And treating a person as a whole person that has a divine purpose in life, I think certainly lends itself toward that. So with those in mind, what would you say are some of the biggest benefits of our Christian education system?
Wow, a lot of them. When you look at what comes out, the product of the student that comes out of school, public school is pushing their students to be successful in this life. Success to them means who can get the most. More money, more stuff. Can you climb to the top of the heap? And that's what they're promoting in public school as for the goal of their students. And Christian schools, Adventist schools, do not do that. The great goal of Adventist schools for their students is that they would learn to serve God and others. And that would come before themselves.
Is that challenging? Is that a challenging? I just think of growing up, competition and everything else.
Sure.
Is that a hard message to get across to kids that are surrounded by by this world that just says you've got to claw your way to the top and the king of the mountain wins.
Yes.
But we're proposing that no, our king says be a servant.
Yes.
Is that a tough sell?
Probably originally because I think we're born into this world as selfish human beings. We want for ourselves. But as students grow and learn to know who God is, and when they learn to see who Jesus was and the life he lived, it impacts their hearts and their minds, and they make a decision that they want to be like that themselves. And that's a life of service to others, not a life of getting for me.
So does that, how do you communicate that? Are there changes in the curriculum and the opportunities kids have that where they get to practice that and develop that in themselves?
Yeah, our schools, every one of our schools in Oregon, and we have 32 schools here in Oregon, every one of those schools have an outreach program where students go out into their community to do service to their community.
Yes.
And that's one way in which we do it. A lot of our larger schools, particularly high schools, academies, will do mission trips where they go to foreign countries, sometimes here in the United States. I know our closest academy here, the one that is in Medford.
Yes, Rogue Valley Adventist Academy.
Rogue Valley Adventist Academy last year went down to where the fires were and did a lot of work in helping clean up and get sorted out, you know,
Yeah,
here
that's right.
in
Down
Northern California.
In Paradise, California.
In
yes.
Paradise, yes. And previously they've gone to other parts here in the United States to do inner city work with people. But sometimes it's also foreign countries that they go to, and they do mission service there to help people.
Yes, in fact, this year they're going to Belize, I believe.
That's correct, yes.
And I'm happy to say my son is planning on going on that trip, and I'm thrilled at the opportunity for myself, being able to step outside and seeing the world. It's a humbling experience, number one, and it just shows you how much need there is and ways you can engage. So I'm thrilled that our kids have those opportunities.
Yeah, it just changes a student's life.
It sure does.
They come back from some of those third world countries and they recognize it's not about stuff anymore. It's not about how much I have in my bedroom or how many toys I have.
Right.
But it's about there are people all over this world who are hurting and in need, and what can I do to help that?
Right. And the other thing I'm happy to see, you talked about the local as well. I'm not sure how to say this other than, you know, sometimes we get so focused on other countries and dealing with things there that we forget about our neighborhood. So I'm thrilled. I know at Rogue Valley, where my son goes, they have service days where they go into their community and they're seeing the need right here. And I love that duality, having both of those opportunities and seeing needs everywhere.
Yes.
And how can I fit in? Folks, I'm so pleased that we have Dave Davies here from the Oregon Conference, the Associate Superintendent of Education. And we're talking about the need for alternatives where parents would have the opportunity to send their kids to Christian education. We'll be back right after this.
Better Life Broadcasting is a viewer-supported Christian media ministry that offers streaming programming via apps on various devices. Please visit blbn.org to support Better Life or to get more information. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome back to Better Life Today. I'm having a very pleasant visit with Dave Davies, who has a passion for Christian education. So welcome back. We were talking about our schools and the different benefits. You wanted to share a little bit more about the impact it has on children.
Well, one of the great benefits of Adventist education is we don't have 30 to 40 students in a classroom.
That's right.
We have a smaller class size. I can guarantee you every single teacher in our schools is interested in the welfare of every child in their classroom.
Right.
And they will go out of their way, outside of school even, to take care of that student's needs. So I think those are two great benefits. Teachers who honestly love and care for the kids, who are going to lead them to know who Jesus is, and who have the time, because their class is not overwhelming, to take care of their needs.
That's right. Another thing I really am impressed with and appreciate is the number of volunteers. As I mentioned, my wife is a teacher at the Grants Pass School here, And every time I have the pleasure of going over there a couple days a week and having lunch with her and with the kids. And they're just volunteers everywhere. And it's that same spirit of just love. And it's, I don't know how to even capture it, but it's just wonderful seeing, from young people coming in and volunteering because they're volunteering and getting hours. I know one of my sons goes into the school every once in a while, helps out in the classrooms. There's a lady who's almost a centenarian?
Yes.
That's in there volunteering, and her smile just warms my heart every time. So it's wonderful.
Yes. And you asked before, how do we teach students to be service-oriented? This school that you were mentioning here in Grants Pass probably has 20 volunteers who have learned themselves to be servants to other people, and the students get to watch that.
And so not only are they helping, they're mentoring.
They are.
Wow.
Yes.
So share with me, are there some stories, if you reflect upon your years in the system, in the education system, that you'd like to share with us?
Well, Seventh-day Adventist schools are not full of Seventh-day Adventists.
That's right.
Many of our schools have a great majority of students who come from other faiths or who don't necessarily profess any faith, but who are willing to live up to the principles that the school stands for.
Right.
And the school that I attended through junior high and high school was 70% non-Adventist, and a lot of those from non-Christian families. And I would say that over the years I went to school with those students and became friends with them. Many of them chose to be Christians, from being in a Christian school and being mentored by Christian teachers. And they're Christians to this day and serving God, and they will be, I'm sure, through eternity because of their opportunity to attend a Christian school.
So I'm sure you probably heard this before, how would you answer if somebody questioned if there are that many non-Christian students in the school, how do you keep that from changing the culture of the school to make it less of a Christian school?
We don't make it less of a Christian school. Yeah. Right up front with anybody who's interested in applying, we tell them what this school stands for. Your student is going to hear about Jesus every day in this school. And so it is a Christian school. Right. But we do not force anybody or arm bend anybody to accept the beliefs of Seventh-day Adventist Church. Right. They're welcome to have their own beliefs and attend the Seventh-day Adventist school. They just need to live up to the principles and guidelines that the school stands for. Right. And that's caring for other people largely.
And again, that's something that's modeled with the teachers, with the volunteers, and with their classmates.
It is, yes.
Well, very good.
Right.
So you mentioned earlier that there are 32 Adventist schools within Oregon, is that correct? We
have 32 schools in Oregon. I serve 10 of those schools.
Okay.
I'm the servant to 10 schools in Southern Oregon.
All right.
South of Eugene, we have 10 schools from Coos Bay out on the west coast to Klamath Falls in the east. And then we have a school just east of us here in between Eagle Point and Shady Cove. There's a school.
Okay.
And to the west of us, we have a school at Cave Junction.
That's right.
And then we have 6 more schools starting in Medford and running right up Interstate 5, going through Grants Pass where we are this morning, and then Canyonville, and on up past Canyonville to Roseburg. There's a school in Roseburg, another one in Sutherland, and on up to Cottage Grove. Right. So 6 schools right up the I-5 corridor, many schools to choose from here in Southern Oregon.
Yeah, in fact, Douglas, our creative director, did a quick search on it, and just within 50 miles or so, we have the Grants Pass Adventist School, we have Rogue Valley Adventist Academy, Rogue Valley Adventist Academy Preschool, the Madrone Adventist Elementary School in Cave Junction, you mentioned, Shady Point Adventist School in Eagle Point, Canyonville Adventist Elementary School, Milo Adventist Academy, and I have to do a shout out to Milo Academy. That's where I attended high school, and that's where I met my wife. We did not get married while we were there. It was about a decade later, but I have a great place in my heart for Milo.
And I should share with the viewers that that's a boarding academy.
That's right.
So students whose maybe home life is not great. Sometimes that's a great place for them to be. Or even Christian families who do not have a Christian high school that's near to them. Many of those families will send their students to Milo Adventist Academy, and they get a fantastic Christian education there. My 3 daughters, all 3 of them went to that school as well, got fantastic training both as Christians and in leadership.
Yes. Yeah, there was one year where I was there. I had 3 siblings there. So we were freshman through senior there. We had a couple of cousins there. It felt like we were half the school.
Oh, yeah.
And I was given a choice. I remember I wanted to go. I grew up near Columbia Academy up in Vancouver, Washington.
Oh, yes.
And that's where my friends went, and that's where I fully intended to go. So my parents said, well, we'd like you to go work at Milo for the summer, and then you can decide. And just being in that environment, and frankly being a teenager who was ready to be a little bit more out on his own, I chose to attend Milo. So it's nice that we have different schools that fit different demographics as well.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
well, very good. So lots of school options. Who can attend these schools?
Our schools are open to anyone who would want to attend, and they're welcome to apply. The only issue would be that they agree to the principles. They will be given a school handbook which outlines what the school stands for, what its mission is, and of course the behavioral guidelines for students and those types of things. So long as any student agrees to those and their parents agree to those, we welcome them into the Adventist school system.
So if somebody who's watching right now may be interested, what would the process be? How do you go check out one of our schools?
Well, first of all, there's always Google. So if you Google Seventh-day Adventist school, you can Google in your area, and if you don't find one, if you Google Oregon Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, you will find a list of all 32 schools there, and with contact information, and you can contact those. Call, ask for an appointment with the principal. They will be happy to set up an appointment for you. Bring your student, come and visit the school, and just see if it's a fit for you.
That's right. In fact, I know just last week, I think one of my sons went to Rogue Valley Adventist School for Academy Days. So he had an opportunity to go in and see what it would be like to be in a classroom there and enjoy all the different activities. So
yes.
Well, very good. And you know, frankly, this is not different from public schools, right? There are going to be rules. You're going to be signing agreements. The difference to me is, again, that our mission is very different than what you're going to find in. You know that you're going for something that's a little bit different, and in my opinion, a very good thing.
Yes. Yeah, Adventist schools, I would say, believe in 3 major things in this order: God, family, and country. We believe also that the United States of America is a wonderful country, and we're patriotic. We support everything our country stands for, up to whatever the Bible should state. Yeah.
Well, very good. So we've talked about some of the differences. Are there any studies that have been done that show where Christian schools are perhaps superior to the public school system?
Well, I can speak for the Seventh-day Adventist school system. As I said, it's the largest Protestant school system in the world, over 5,000 schools. And we in North America do testing of our students every single year. And when you look at those students, when they come into our school at the beginning grades, they're average with other students in other schools. And the testing that's done, the major test that's been done for the last 20 or 30 years is the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, which was probably the widest used test of achievement in the United States. And our students in 3rd grade, when we first give the test in 3rd grade, would be near average. But as you watch those students continue to progress through Adventist school, the average goes from 50% to 60% to 70%, and as they're graduating from 8th grade, it's about 75%. And that includes all of the students in our schools, and they're compared to not only public schools, but even elite private schools that use this same test. Charlie, there are 5 different studies that have been done on Adventist education that show the results to students who have gone through the Adventist school system. and they're pretty amazing results. Compared with Christian families who send their students to public school, the ones that send their students to public school, 60% of those students from Christian families choose themselves to be Christian and follow God. But the ones that have gone through kindergarten through grade 12 in Adventist Christian schools, 97% of those students choose to follow God. Besides that fact, of the ones who went to public school, 4 times as many of those students leave the church as those who went to Adventist Christian school.
Well, that's both humbling and amazing. So one of the big challenges I hear about, and I feel it frankly in my own home, comes down to the finances. Public school is free, and it's not, but it is. It's free in that it's paid via tax dollars.
Yes.
You're not writing a check to the school. How are people able to afford Christian education?
Well, some of our parents can afford it, and when you decide, what are my values? Would I rather have an RV and a boat or have my child in heaven? It's a pretty easy decision to make. So sometimes you do have to make choices.
Yes.
That I'm going to pay, and I've made that choice personally for my 3 daughters and now for my grandchildren, that I will sell everything that I personally own to see them have a Christian Adventist education, if it takes that to do it. But there are some parents who simply cannot afford all of the tuition themselves. And our schools do have some scholarship programs, and they can ask about those and see how much scholarship money may be available to help the student as well.
Right. So one of the things I'm hearing, we have this information, we have these wonderful opportunities. And the first thing to me would be, go check it out. Don't say, no, I can't because it's too expensive.
Sure.
Don't say, no, I won't because it means, sacrificing in different areas. Go look at it. And so you can start to see some of the differences, and then you're making a value judgment rather than a financial.
Yes, and sometimes there are both local churches and private donors who will also help with tuition costs for students to be in school.
I would love to spend more time talking with you about this. Education is the bedrock to some of the things we do and believe, and to be able to communicate that to our children. So I'm so thankful that you were able to come in and visit with us. I hope you'll be able to do it again soon.
I would love to.
That's wonderful, thank you. And folks, if you'd like to hear some more information about it, please go to our website. We'll have information up on the screen showing you how you can contact the conference and our schools directly. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time at Better Life Today.